Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show, and I am Kyle Seraphin. I just sometimes listen to that intro just a little bit differently, and I think civil liberties enthusiast. What a weird time that I thought that was funny. It is funny because the people that are in charge of this country don't really care about our civil liberties, so it's a joke. But it's not a joke, is it? We're just living through this strange moment. We're also living through a moment where history is being rewritten, 1984 style. The only truth that comes out is the truth that the party will give you. The talking points have been set out, so we have received our talking points, and we're here to tell you that Kamala Harris was definitely not the border czar. She was not a border czar. How dare you think she was a border czar if you think that she was a border czar, that she was in charge of stemming the problems at the border? Then you're a racist and possibly a sexist, and you're obviously just a bad person. And don't call her childless because she has no children. That also is totally inappropriate. We're going to attack you here on this program for saying simple facts. We don't believe in facts. We simply believe in what the party has told us. What a weird moment in time. All right, there's a lot going on in the world, and obviously the piece of it that is the most interesting to a lot of folks is that this woman who has been cringeworthy, suddenly she's cool. 48 hours later, she's raising tens of millions of dollars in seconds, and she's auditioning for the top job. Meanwhile, I guess the George Floyd riots of 2020 are resurging. Same people, a different banner. Their banner now is the banner of Free Palestine and killing Jews and God knows what. So we're going to talk about that. I don't necessarily care about the Israel-Gaza conflict in so much as what goes on over there. What I care about is when it comes here and they burn my American flag. We're going to talk about that. What else we got going on? Wray managed to go to the Capitol and talk to lawmakers, and rather than cover down on whistleblower stuff, which is what we were promised, of course, the attempted assassination on Donald Trump took front and center stage. I've got a full page full of notes on that, so we'll break down those things as well. Before we do it, as just mentioned, there's an awful lot going on. So just tell you, stop what you're doing right now. Listen to this. As you probably know, your God-given freedoms are up for the taking by those who are sworn to defend them. If you think that they are not going to go out there and try and violate your civil liberties, you are wrong. If you think that they're going to try to stop you from protecting your family, you're probably right. They think they can force delusions on your kids. They think they control the media. They seem to be doing a pretty good job hiding the truth. They can't take away your self-reliance or your peace of mind. So make sure that you have water filtration, that you have a charged solar generator, that you have emergency food on your shelf, maybe in your car, and you can get it now from My Patriot Supply. They've served millions of American families. My Patriot Supply is the most trusted name in survival, and for a damn good reason. You can go to preparelikekyle.com right now. Save $200 on the best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. I bought 2 of these the other day. They have over 2,000 calories per day, sealed inside, very well-sealed packaging. They last for up to 25 years. And it's delicious food. All you got to do is go to preparelikekyle.com. Again, preparelikekyle.com. Save $200. Get free shipping. Yeah. I dropped in my own money on this thing, folks. It's totally worth it to make sure you have that peace of mind. Don't get caught where you wish you had spent that money up front. Prepare or repair. You guys know my take on this. Let's jump right into how dumb the timeline is, because it is quite dumb. There's no other way to say it. This is the framing that they thought would work. They is the media, obviously. The prosecutor versus the felon. Democrats see a winning contrast between Harris and Trump. And yet, is that really a winning contrast? Kamala Harris is so gross that she basically has gone out there and she's trying on various different outfits. Which one will resonate? The thing that's going to resonate is that she's been lying to the American people for quite a long time. And she said, Joe Biden's got this in the bag. He's squared away. He's super capable. Don't even worry about it. And it's funny is because nobody got mad about seeing Joe Biden clips. We would say this is ridiculous, but nobody watches it and goes like, slimy liar. That's not the sort of sense you get from Joe Biden. You get a different kind of slime. Maybe it's the female voice. Maybe it's that shrill, if she hadn't married Doug Emhoff, then she would die in a room alone and be eaten by cats kind of thing. Whatever it is, there's something very specific to Kamala Harris. And it's not her race. It's not her gender, because those of us who love women, and we despise Kamala Harris, not because she's a woman, but because she's Kamala Harris, because she's awful. She's gross. And she says stuff like this. She said, before I was elected vice president, and she was really selected, wasn't she? Because she didn't have a chance to win the office of the presidency, which she was trying out for. Before I was elected as a United States senator. Before I was elected as attorney general, I was a courtroom prosecutor. And in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all types. So she's trying to put on this banner, Kamala the cop, which is nauseating. There's nothing cop-like about attorneys that do prosecution. Even if they're allowed to carry a firearm, which they are in some jurisdictions, they're not cops. They're the opposite of cops. They're the other end of it. They are the litigious part of it. Cops are the operational end of it. So everything has its place. But to try to put that banner on is very weird, especially for Democrats who have been hating on cops for quite a while now. She says, predators who abuse women, fraudsters who ripped off customers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say I know Donald Trump's type, and in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his. Can we see that, please? Would that be okay? Would somebody please put Kamala Harris's courtroom record? I want to know when she was first chair, when she was sitting and running prosecution in a courtroom, what was her record and what kind of people did she go after? And how did she do? That's it. That's what I want to know. Bill Shipley said as much. He said, can we just see how she did as a prosecutor? I don't want prosecutors in the chair of the executive. Prosecutors work through this sort of operational morality. They're very different than what law enforcement does. Law enforcement, generally speaking, doesn't get a chance to decide, hey, I'm going to let this one go or not on major matters. And that is very different than what prosecutors do. They're bargaining and they're making deals on whether or not the law broken was bad enough. That's a strange take. And it probably falls into why she's the quote unquote most liberal senator when she was a senator. This whole clip that I'm about to play you, it's first of all, they're all cringy, so just deal with it. We have to deal with this woman being there for the next couple months. And hopefully she'll just go away after that. That would be fantastic for me. But until that time, listen to this clip. For those of you that are not watching it, the minute that the challenge comes in on her answer, her mouth stays open for the remainder of the clip. It never closes. She just sits there, and you can picture Kamala Harris just sitting there slack-jawed, essentially. Get a little taste of this. The most liberal senator, well, that's obviously just a Republican smear. All these things are apparently Republican smears if they're true.
You're very different in the policies that you've supported in the past. You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all.
Oh no, my record. It's so weird. She doesn't close her mouth the whole way. She goes from like open face smile to closed teeth smile, but still her lips don't touch for the entirety of that little piece. Bizarre. Like just weird. And maybe the hits that are going to come at her, because right now, like I said, you can't call her a border czar because she obviously wasn't a border czar. Maybe she wasn't successful going south and trying to figure out the root causes of migration, which are illegal people sneaking into our country by the millions. Maybe that's simply because she didn't actually think it was a problem. We kind of knew that, didn't we? We kind of understood that up front. Have a little taste of her take on what happens when you break the law. As a prosecutor, mind you, a prosecutor who knows these types. when you break the law, but it's not a law that I care about, are you really breaking the law?
It is wrong to somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal. I've personally prosecuted everything from low-level offenses to homicides. I know what a crime looks like. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
They're not a criminal, people. You heard it. So that's what's at stake. That's what's on the ballot. Do you think that someone who breaks the law is a criminal or not? And there's all kinds of other information that's out there, whether or not it be the fact that she was raising money for bail funds for people that were doing violent crimes or destroying the city of Portland. They were raising money for Antifa and so on. Like all of these things, those are all in the same vein. The vein is she's a prosecutor. She has discretion. That's the claim. She's going to run on the prosecutorial record. So be it. Prosecutors get to decide who wins and who loses. And if you're a leftist prosecutor, you're even more aggressive on it. That's the big claim against Soros-backed prosecutors, that they are choosing winners and losers at the local level, and they are deciding the fates of people, which is how you end up with a weaponized justice system. Chris Wray was briefly asked about this, and his answer was, I don't know. But the question was, do you realize how weaponized your FBI agents are when they are arresting a woman who's 75 years old for praying at an abortion clinic and being sentenced to 2 years in jail? And his answer is like, I can't be, I'm the FBI director. I don't know all about all the cases. So I don't know about that one. So I won't comment on it. Classic Wray. I'm going to actually give Wray more kudos than you guys would be more comfortable with. I actually got a phone call from George Hill. I did a radio hit yesterday. And as I'm talking about it, George calls me up and he's like, I didn't hear the flamethrowers fired up. Like, what's going on? The fact of the matter is I will tell you what I think is true. If Chris Wray shared information, and he did more than I would expect, I'm going to share it. Chris Wray was also a prosecutor. They lie very comfortably, but let's give kudos where they're due. Let's also call them out where they do things wrong. In the case of Kamala Harris, that's actually really easy. And now here's a little piece from that hearing yesterday. And it's kind of interesting because, as usual, Republicans are scattered, folks. They're all over the place. They show up to a hearing that's with Chris Wray. What does Chris Wray know about? Does he know about how the Secret Service works and what protective details are provided? No. Did we waste our time asking questions about whether or not resources were pulled from Secret Service to protect Donald Trump? Yeah, they did. The people on the left, they're 100% locked in. What they did is they played all political violence in the same shade as January 6th and against themselves. Jaya Paul did this. Like a bunch of these characters, Swalwell was talking about guns in a way that was just like totally logical. He said, we've armed this country to the teeth. Like, did you really, Eric? You armed who? Who have you armed? That's my other favorite thing about the quote unquote buybacks. They want to buy back guns from who? Like, I didn't buy them from the government. The guns that I bought from gun stores and manufacturers. What right would the government have to come and get them? So they make these illogical claims. The Democrats are in lockstep. They always get together. Their ducks are in a row, and they hammer the same points down every day. Republicans are all over the map. They're talking about whether or not the FBI can give a transparent discussion and give insight into the investigation. Surprisingly, they gave more information than I would expect. But they're kind of everywhere else with it, too. I saw Matt Gaetz do a couple things. Number one, he kind of put Chris Wray on the spot to say that he thought the inspector general for DHS should stay. And Democrats are kind of rattling to get rid of him. Why? Because Kamala Harris was definitely not the border czar, and there definitely were not wrongdoings done at the border and on border policy. So, you see, if the OIG is able to uncover that, that's really bad for Harris's record, especially because she wasn't a border czar. When we look at the way that this kind of plays out, he hammered him on that, got him to go on record, and then he went through this line of attack that a couple of people did. They said, you're the director of the FBI. You get to brief the president on things like this. And Wray is like, oh, no. Ray's smart, folks. He's not dumb. He plays dumb, but he's not dumb. He's very, very sophisticated, and he ran circles around a couple of things here. This one was funny. I just have to believe that this is a bald-faced lie, but we'll give it to you. You guys make the decision. Here's Matt Gaetz asking questions, trying to find out when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden started hiding this cognitive decline, which is the real question that should be answered. Is this person that's running for office a dishonest person?
Zoom out a little bit. How often do you brief President Biden?
You mean on this specific
just generally.
case?
No, in your role as FBI director.
I mean, I don't know that I could give you a number.
Is it like weekly, monthly, daily?
It's not It's not at a regular cadence. There have been times when there have been months at a time when I haven't, and then there have been times when several days apart I have.
Okay.
It's always with other people.
The vice president, is she typically there?
Often has been.
Okay, so when did you notice his decline?
In my interactions, in my role, all my interactions with the current president have been completely professional.
Right, but I mean the cognitive decline. I'm not saying he treated you unprofessionally, just maybe not picking things up as quickly as he used to.
Again, I don't meet with him very often, but what you're describing is not something that I've observed during my interactions with him.
I mean, we've had it observed so often that the ranking member and Mr. Schiff on this committee have said that he could no longer continue as a candidate. And so, since you're the FBI director, I was just sort of wondering, like, who's running the country? Like if something bad happened, you'd have to go brief President Biden about it right now? God forbid?
And on any number of occasions, I have briefed the president, and as I said, those briefings have all been uneventful and unremarkable.
Oh. Did you notice how he actually almost clutched his tie or his pearls or whatever he keeps underneath his tie? Like me, whenever I go talk to him, it's been totally professional. Well, that wasn't the question. When did he start declining? I haven't noticed it. I'm not capable of powers of discernment. I'm just the FBI director. I just go and tell them things and they listen and they nod and then I walk away. I try not to be aware of this stuff. Matt Gaetz gets him in there. And so you can almost imagine in that courtroom moment where the other side goes, objection, Your Honor. And Matt Gaetz, no, we're going to credibility here. Okay. Overruled. There is no objection. What Matt Gaetz is saying is that this man doesn't tell us the truth when he doesn't want to. He is a political animal, and he continues to operate in that way. Now, to the credit of Chris Wray yesterday, he did say some things about the shooter that I hadn't heard before. I think they go to dispel some of the garbage. Does that mean that I think Chris Wray is trustworthy? Absolutely not. I watched him lie about forms and documents and suggesting that somehow contractors are the ones that are putting FBI agents up to asking certain questions within the security division and adjudicating clearances from people that we know, suspendables whose names you don't know, and then including people like Garrett Boyle and like their stories. He lies, and he lies very comfortably. He also tends not to move as much when he's telling the truth. You'll watch his mannerisms. He's got like a lot of a poker tells, but he'll do this. He gets very animated when he's trying to sell you on his garbage, like he just did with Matt Gaetz, the clutching and the movement. He does far less of that when he's giving matter-of-fact information because he's using his memory. Just saying. It is obvious to those of us who are used to watching people. Now, the question of who is to blame for hiding the cognitive decline, and I love that he brought in Adam Schiff, who had some of the most slimy and nasty remarks. Just listening to that guy makes my skin crawl. But he brought it up. The question is not who Chris Wray thinks was hiding the decline or who Matt Gaetz or even Adam Schiff thinks. The question is who are the voters in the places where it matters? What do they think? And I think they probably all understand it's people that are nearby. So let's hear it from an MSNBC panel. This is uncomfortable for them to do. They got to do it, though. You got to ask people.
Who do you blame for President Biden being in office in this condition? Who deserves the blame?
His close staff. They work with him every day.
So I think that's what also makes me nervous about the Vice President Harris.
Yeah. Talk about that a bit.
So yes, she's going to be in it, but she also helped keep him in where he's at right now. And if he really is as bad as what they've been saying, I think if he steps down as president and she steps into the presidency before the end of his term, it almost makes me question a little bit more why it didn't happen sooner. She's worked with him. She's been, to my understanding, with him daily, or at least a couple of days a week. Why hasn't this been brought to attention if she's willing to hide that type of information once she's in office? Now what she's willing to hide for herself.
That kind of sounds like you're describing a coup. You can't have a coup. How dare you? People need to teach the GOP what the word coup means. So saith MSNBC, the same group that just did that interview for Morning Joe. They say that, Biden dropped out for the same reason that all politicians drop out of their campaigns since time immemorial. He realized that he couldn't win. Well, doesn't that say something? If the man who's in the office can't win, his VP's got to be equally weak. His VP gets to co-sign on basically his entire record. Is she going to run away from it? Yeah, and the answer is actually she is on some things, particularly about Israel, which is kind of interesting. But this little opinion piece here, it's worth looking at. For 4 years, the supporters of then Donald Trump stormed the Capitol, almost 4 years after, rather, in an attempt to keep Congress from certifying Joe Biden's win. Republicans have finally become comfortable with using the word coup. Isn't that funny? This was written this morning, the day after insane things happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday, which we'll play you in just a little bit. Speaking of coups, let me just hold that. Let me hold my thought on flags, because I grew up in an era of capture the flag. I grew up in an era of Super Mario Brothers. When you lower the flag, you take the castle, right? Flags, they mean something. In any case, we're now going to use the word coup on the right, and that means that we should have finally accepted that January 6th was in fact a coup. It's nonsensical. A coup is when someone actually takes power, not when they break things and run around or hold flags inside of a building that are the same flags that are raised on the outside of the building and care about the country. People who are military veterans that didn't show up with weapons, people who are hillbillies and rednecks, if you want to believe the political left, that didn't show up with firearms, which is the thing that we do when we want to take stuff. If we were really serious, anybody on the political right, about taking something, it would be violent, it would be aggressive, and there are a lot of people with a lot of training that know how to do it. How many former SOF guys, special operations forces, how many special operators are in this country that lean to the political right? A lot of them. The answer is a bunch. Because they understand what using physical power means, and most of them don't want it done in their country. In any case, shortly after the news broke Sunday that Biden was dropping out of the political race and endorsing Kamala Harris, of course, he did so as a ghost and disappeared from everything. Senator Tom Cotton, Republican, Arkansas, wrote that Joe Biden has succumbed to a coup by Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Hollywood donors, ignoring millions of Democratic primary voters. Is any of that false? Did they not push him out from inside the party? Is that not what a coup is? I don't get it. I don't understand how they think they can, they're going to call out Paul Gosar from Arizona. The coup is complete. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying the same thing. Everybody's using the word coup. I had an entire episode. It's a flipping coup, people. When you move people around the chessboard so that when the person steps out and they make the first move, or you engage them and they have no other moves, that's a checkmate. That's what a coup looks like. A bloodless coup, but a coup nonetheless. It's not what happened on January 6th. What happened on January 6th is a bunch of disorganized people by the hundreds of thousands showed up, and some of them, like a few hundred of them, got violent. Not a coup. We've seen coups in other countries. People get dragged out. Politicians get beaten. There was an argument being made yesterday during that hearing with Chris Wray that the gallows were erected in order to hang Mike Pence. Now, interestingly enough, and thankfully, it was Tom Massey who talked about it. God bless Tom Massey and the difficulties his family's going through right now, losing his wife, Rhonda. So our prayers go out to their family and for the repose of his wife's soul. He showed up for this hearing and he brought his A game anyway. And all he said was, he didn't lay on the fact that he's an engineer and understands how things work, but he is. And he was like, hey, Chris Wray, were you aware of a gallows erected to hang Mike Pence? And he was like, not really, no. And he said, if somebody had erected a serious apparatus to be able to hang politicians, would that be something you would investigate? And he said, absolutely. And he said, have you seen this before? And he said, my understanding, it was a sort of a prop. And he goes, that's my understanding too, because it looks like a prop. It doesn't look like a thing that could actually hang anybody, which obviously it was not. In fact, there was a sign on the gallows that the Democrat Party has been crying about for now 4 years. And they've been crying about it. And there was literally a sign that said, this is art. So all of the conspiracies on the political right that, they were trying to incite violence, they were setting up this photo op. You don't set up a photo op with a thing that says this is art or like this is not real. People were pissed and they used a bunch of 2x4s to erect this like silly structure that you could stand on. And it was midget height. Let's be real clear. It was midget height. You couldn't hang anybody. So Tom Massey was able to draw that out. And I think that's actually a meaningful thing. And then Chris Wray touted his record. 800 people have been arrested and pled guilty. Another 800 have been convicted or so. 1,600, almost 1,700, whatever the heck the number is right now. The Justice Department's record is very good at crushing people on the political right who didn't have a good opinion. That stands in stark contrast. Are we going to see them go after the people that attacked the Capitol yesterday? And when I say attacked, I mean they lowered the flag. before we leave the Kamala Harris thing, there's this line of attack going on the political left, trying to come back at the right because people refer to her by the factually accurate term childless. I am one of those people. I am not attacking you if you don't have children. I don't know you. I see what Kamala Harris does. I see the way that she operates in the world, and it is clear that as someone who doesn't have children and operates without a care to the future, she is selling out my children's future, which I have a much more vested stake in than she does. Her interest in the future is small. She's 60 years old. And let's be totally real. Let's say she lives to a record age at like 100 years old. She has 40 more years on this planet, of which how much of it matters to the people that are going to be young? How much of what she could do is going to be based on her decisions of the folks that she wakes up every single day and helps raise and feed and clothe and educate and hopes and dreams about? My youngest daughter just turned 11 months old today. And so I'm acutely aware of the fact that there is a long future, God willing, for all these little people that live in my house. And that changes the way that I go about business. It's the reason why I don't have a job with the FBI right now, which did get briefly brought up at that hearing as well. Being childless is it's not an insult, but it is something even the Bible talked about. For all of time, we've thought about it this way. Women were they were called barren. And barren was like not a thing that you would jeer them about. You would actually say, like, you would pray that they wouldn't have to go through that burden. And when children pop up, what do we talk about? A blessing, a sign of favor, whether it be the gods or the one God. That's what people have said for all of time. She's childless. That's a fact. Now you've got this like pushback. Doug Emhoff, that's her husband's ex-wife, is now like her best buddy, and they co-parent together and they call her Mama. They're trying to trot this thing out because J.D. Vance in 2021 said that this country is being run by a bunch of basically crazy cat ladies, childless cat ladies. Or as Steve Friend likes to call them, the worst people in America, leftist, liberal-minded women. Their ideas are terrible. They're objectively terrible. They're terrible. The funniest thing is when someone who's on the political left that has children is all in for abortion. For me, it's like, how did that work out in your head? Did it make any sense to you? We have a member of our family, my wife's extended family, who got really upset that I'm against abortion. And she was like a super mom. She did things that for her kids that only a mother would do. She used to read textbooks into a recorder, burn CDs, and send them off to her daughter in college. That's super mom material. That's like, I'm in awe of that sort of thing. I don't have the patience to sit and read, stories every day to my children. Imagine reading textbooks in technical fields like engineering for years so that your daughter can go out and have a career, because she's unable to read textbooks or she doesn't have the mental capabilities to do that or whatever the story was. And I wasn't there at that time. All I know is that is a super mom move. To be big on abortion after doing those things, how does that even compute? That's why the claim of childless, when you put your life secondary, like my wife's aunt did, that is putting yourself secondary. Do you think it's fun to sit and read hours and hours and hours of dense technical manuals and books? No, of course not. Are there better things to be doing with your life in retirement? Of course. There probably have got to be. When you're an empty nester and you've got things to go, you can go do all kinds of stuff. You can go see the world. Or you keep taking care of your kids because you have such an interest that you're willing to subjugate your freedoms and the things that would make you happy, because what makes you happy is looking at your kids' future. Being childless is a real question, and it should be discussed in a meaningful way, not as in a line of attack per se, but as an actual qualification. What skin do you have in the future, Kamala Harris? And by the way, as we talked about yesterday, straight out of Matthew, you'll know them by their fruits. The fruits is that the young woman who grew up in the Emhoff Harris household looks like a damn disaster. Looks gender confused. She's gone for the current thing. She's basically been able to be successful without being aesthetically beautiful in a beauty type field. She looks sad and horrible. So anyway, it's terrible. And this is the line of attack you guys are seeing. This is multiple different stories that have gone out there talking about the term childless. It's funny. Matt Walsh lined on it. I lined on it. A lot of people that care about women, that care about children, that care about the future, that care about what America always has understood, that our children are the greatest treasure that we have. if you don't have that treasure, we're kind of asking some questions. How are you going to make decisions for my children when you don't have that skin in the game? It's the other reason why I always tell people, go out there and have kids. Like, don't be ridiculous. Don't say the world is tough. Make it better. Get some skin in the game. You will make better decisions simply because of that. And Jordan Peterson said the same kind of thing, folks. He said men should pick up the biggest burden that they can find, even a burden that is too heavy for them, and tote it. And it turns out they will often rise to the occasion. I look at my own friendships. My closest buddy from high school got married at, did he get married at 19 or 20? Young for my generation, right? We're both 42 right now. He gets married at a young age, has children right away. His kids are now graduated out of high school, and I've got one that's still in diapers. So that's a wild kind of change between two people. He picked up that burden, and he's successful as he could be. He's brilliant. He's a loving father. He's an awesome guy. And none of us thought we could do it at that time. He just didn't have a choice. It was like, it's baby time. We're making it happen. We got a baby on the way. It's time to grow up. And he did, and he got a job. And the thing that I'm so proud of, because this is the thing that men do when they are challenged and they have good values, they'll drop out of college. They'll drop out of pursuing whatever their future is, and they will support their family. My buddy got a job right away. A lot of you know this story. This is a story that is old as America. It's like, I had other plans. I was going to do something else. I found out that fiance, wife, girlfriend, whatever, pregnant. You pull the trigger, you get married because that's the right thing to do, and you take your children in and you get to work. So it's really important. Being childless is not a line of attack. I will say it over and over again. It's very important that we consider what the next generation has in front of them. And are we putting a liar in the office? Can we talk about that too? Let's talk about my friends at Patriot Coolers before we get into liars. Let's talk about people that are honest and have an honest product, have a great thing that you can purchase at patriotcoolers.com. This is mine. Oh, there's my Seraphin family cooler that back on the screen there. There it is. This is the etched, engraved with the Suspendables logos. It is the upside down flag. We are living in that moment. Promo code Kyle will let you save 10% on this very item if you choose. You can design it the way you like under the Customize Me. We have Suspendables artwork that is built in, and it's just available to you. We make no additional profit on it. We just want to support Patriot Coolers. We gave them our logos so that you guys can have them on the things that you buy from them. PatriotCoolers.com, PatriotCoolers.com, Houston, Texas company. They support veterans. They support the Kyle Seraphin Show, and you can do both of those things using promo code KYLE. Check them out. Nobody says I steer them wrong. I'm telling you, I'll just keep repeating it. Everybody that gets one, my mother-in-law told me the same thing. She's like, oh yeah, I got one of the soft coolers. It's great. They're great. Your politics aside, it matters not at all. It's just a good product. Okay, let's get into a little further. We can't call her the border czar. We know that she's been covering up the cognitive decline of Joe Biden. So don't call her the border czar. But you can't even ask questions. Let's try to get that reclarification moment. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre trying to spin a Peter Doocy moment. Very difficult to do because the facts sort of align with the reality.
As a partner, though, she's been in charge of root causes of migration for years. She has never spoken to the Border Patrol Chief, Jason Owens, or the Border Patrol Chief before him, Raul Ortiz. What should that tell us about her leadership style?
She was supposed to be doing root causes, dealing with diplomacy. Diplomacy. That's what her job was supposed to be. Diplomatic. That's the job. And I understand that you're asking these questions, but we should also look at congressional Republicans who got in the way.
Oh, it's the Republicans' fault. I should have known. There is a story that you're seeing, headline coming from the AP. This is March 24th, 2021, the first 2.5 months of the Biden administration. Joe Biden has tapped Vice President Kamala Harris to lead the White House effort to tackle the migration challenges at the U.S. southern border and work with Central American nations to root out the causes of this problem. In delegating the matter to Harris, Biden is seeking to replicate a dynamic that played out as he served Barack Obama as vice president. Obama turned to Biden, the first term, to lead the effort to draw down U.S. troops in Iraq and oversee the implementation of a stimulus in response to the Great Recession. When she speaks for me, Biden said, noting her past work as California's Attorney General, making her specifically equipped to lead the administration's response. When she was Attorney General, she also, I guess, didn't believe that that was a criminal act, breaking the law. So there's that. He faced stiff criticism over the increased flow of migrants. We're looking back in time right now to March 2021, and there was an increased flow of migrants even then. He said, Kamala Harris said, needless to say, the work will not be easy, but it is important work. Is it, though? She's tasked with overseeing diplomatic efforts that deal with the issues spurring migration in the Northern Triangle. She's tasked with the development and the implementation of a long-term strategy that gets at the root causes of migration. Okay. Yeah. She's supposed to be trying to figure out how to solve the problem of a bunch of people coming over. And you'll see below, that's from NBC News. Biden and Harris tasked with stemming the migration at the southern border. The vice president is expected to focus on curbing both the flow of illegal immigrants and coordinating with countries in the region to address the root causes. Okay, so that all sounds like she's supposed to be doing something. Of course, she's not a border czar. How dare you? Allow me to give you the little montage put out by Newsbusters, who do a great job on this kind of stuff. Thank you, Newsbusters, for giving me this brilliant clip. Let's do the border czar mashup.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Do they just pull the chip and then just replace it? We talked about it yesterday. The speed of which the normie left can change their mind is instantaneous. As long as they pop in that new little chip that says, we are now believing something completely different. This is the same people that were interested in BLM, and then it was the COVID vaccine, and it's like, what are we most interested in? Oh, now we're interested in Ukraine. Now we're interested in Hamas and Palestine. Man, whatever it is, these people are empty vessels waiting to be filled. And you just saw that snap, that quick movement. No scruples. No memory of saying something. No saying like, listen, I know we said this, but we were inaccurate at the time and we want to correct what we said. No need. They know Americans are basically disengaged, particularly the like sort of the uninvolved people, the people that don't listen to programs like this. If your news is coming from television like that, I guess that you have the most malleable and flexible thought processes in the world, maybe ever. You're just consuming, updating your code as it goes. I got reached out to do some TV tomorrow, and it's like, I hate doing TV. But I really hate doing TV. I hate doing Fox. I hate doing Newsmax. I hate doing OAN. I hate doing any of them. I would hate doing CNN. They do 3, 5, maybe 8 minutes of something. There's a reason why we sit here every day for an hour and we can go long form. It's far superior because we can actually craft an argument. We can have that conversation that goes, even if it's only considered, it's one way. It's me sitting here talking to you and I see just the live chat, which I might as well throw on the screen right there. We're talking about difficult topics that don't have a single soundbite answer. And the evidence, it's the same as writing an essay. I talked to my wife about this and she's like, Andrew Klavan does the same thing. And if you guys don't know Andrew Klavan over at Daily Wire, one of my favorites, someone I used to listen to when I had time to listen to a lot more of this stuff. We need to be 1, fair, 2, honest, and we need to have arguments that are set up such that here's the evidence, here's what we think it means. Here's the evidence, here's what we think it means. And as it all moves forward, it's like this, and in summary, this is the conclusion that we take. Now, in fairness, because I told you I would be fair, I actually think Kamala doesn't always get it wrong. Is that weird? This is what she thinks about Gen Z, young people, 18 to 24, whatever. I agree with her. I don't know how much experience she has with it. I don't know how much skin she has in the game. But she's actually right about this. because we all lived that time. And if you're being honest with yourself, when you were a teenager and in your early 20s, most of you, my buddy Nathan withstanding, most of us were pretty dumb. We acted in many retarded ways.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
She's right. Can we give her credit for being honest when she's right? She's a bad actress. She doesn't deliver that well, but she's like incredulous. She's a woman I don't want to listen to, but she's not wrong. She's pandering to an audience of grown-ups, probably parents' age. I get it. But she's not saying something that's false. So good for her. And there's plenty of evidence. As I said, first we show you the assertion, and then we introduce evidence, and then we try to draw some conclusions. How about this? These people you're seeing on the screen right now, this is ABC News talking about how she differs by Biden. She's more aggressive on abortion. She's more interested on the Palestine side or the Hamas side of the Israel-Hamas war, her criminal justice stuff. So they break down kind of like her differences in opinion. She is notably absent as the vice president who should preside over the proceedings in the joint session. She skipped out on Benjamin Netanyahu's address. Now, I'm not interested per se on whether or not she's endorsing one side or another. What I'm interested in is she endorsed something. What does that mean more broadly? And it means that the young people that she thinks she's going to just call stupid are on one side. And she thinks that political wins, the sort of leftist regime and the leftist side of her party, that's where they're making hay. But do they even know what the hell they're doing? Like, do any of these people actually have a clue what it is they're protesting about? Here's some evidence. Probably not. And by the way, if you've watched any of our reporting with Mark Naughton, you can follow him at Mark Naughton 9 on Twitter and other social media. We've shown this. Like, these people do not want to answer questions because they don't know what the hell they're doing there. They're here for the current thing. They are that non-player character, that NPC, the government sort of automaton that walks out and whatever leftist talking point is out for the day, that's what they're into. If it's George Floyd, great. If it's Ukraine, great. If it's Hamas, great. They don't care. They're there for the party. They're there for the revolution because it's never about the actual underlying cause. Here's a pretty good example of why.
I want to know if they actually understand why they are protesting and see if they can give me any good answers. What are you guys out here protesting for?
No comment.
Why are you guys out here today?
Speak to the organizers.
Why can't I wanted to ask you.
Official statements from the organizers only.
In the simplest terms, why are you guys protesting? Why are you guys protesting today?
I don't think it would be a good idea if we...
Why are you guys protesting?
Just to be a part of the cause.
And what's the cause?
Yeah, I'm not the right person to talk to either.
It's not our job to talk. We're just here to support. We're not the spokespeople of this event. This is the wrong people to talk to.
I'm not asking for the spokesperson. I'm just asking why you guys are protesting. Why are you guys here today?
We're not interested in speaking with you.
We're here to raise our voices so you can understand what it is that we are asking for, but we are not willing to raise our voice to actually say what that thing is because we have not been properly briefed on the reason that we are here. We are just here to hang. We're just here because we just want to talk and hang out with our friends. Absolutely clueless people, as you said. Yeah, Roush is right in the chat. Just no idea. They have no idea why they're there. Maybe that's why they do stuff like this. This is what a coup would look like if it were successful. I would think it would look like capture the flag. It would look like our flag being lowered and burned. All right, we don't need all of that, do we? But that's a pretty good taste. They lowered the American flag. It doesn't look like it's particularly great. It was a diverse protest, so there's that. You want to see how diverse it was? This is my favorite word, by the way. Is it like this guy? You're like, oh, is he covering for it? He's trying to explain that this is a mostly peaceful protest because I think that's what he says with the word diverse. This just happened yesterday. This is what a coup looks like. It's when you let idiots run wild and rule of law is subjugated. Bloodless, it looks like, but the cops didn't have a good time.
Jewish groups as well. So it's been incredibly diverse here, and this is pretty much the most intense we've seen. And it's unclear. Oh, and right now there's stun grenades being put out or some sort of sound bombs, and they're raising the Palestinian flag at that flagpole, and you are hearing what appear to be stun grenades or firecrackers going off just on the other side. There are a number of Palestinian flags being raised over there, and the crowd you can hear is cheering very loudly right now. Looks like police are still trying to gain control of this area.
Yeah, the police are trying to gain control. I got a video of that. That was coming from ABC News. They were doing live coverage there on Capitol Hill. He doesn't seem concerned. He doesn't seem to be calling this a threat to democracy or insanity or the fact that the government was almost overthrown, even though there are people rioting. This is what it looks like when people don't get discipline. This is why having children matters. You learn that discipline is important. It's important to learn it when you're a kid. It's important to give it as a parent. It helps you understand what the boundaries are, or they end up like this. All right, there's all kinds of videos. You guys can find them online. We'll maybe play some more tomorrow. There are people that are dragged off. There are cops that are in the middle of doing an arrest, and dudes are grabbing them by the body armor and ripping them off the person that's being arrested. I'm pretty confident that those are federal crimes. Those are U.S. Park Police or those are U.S. Capitol Police doing their job. Pretty sure people have been sentenced to 8 to 10 years. Those are felonies, and you can go and spend real time in Washington, D.C. I guess that's only if you're a conservative. When we talk about weaponized government, that's what we mean. That's the evidence of it. The evidence of it is one side gets attacked and the other side doesn't. One side sees consequences, the other side doesn't. One side sees a Tennessee woman gets over 3 years in prison for blocking access to an abortion clinic, and she apparently blocked it in New York in the early days of the 2020 pandemic, and she's going to see 3 years behind bars. But if you burn down a church, no big deal. That's what weaponized justice looks like. That's what partisanship looks like. That's what idiots for the cause who know that they are being protected from on high. And I saw it when I was in Portland in 2020, and I saw it in Washington, D.C. in 2020. What I saw is that our federal government is the worst tool because it doesn't make good decisions at the local level. And when you go to leftist places, whether it be Washington, D.C., whether it be Minneapolis, whether it be Milwaukee, Kenosha, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, if you go to these big cities and they're out of line, nothing happens because these children didn't have parents that beat them when they needed it. And some of these kids needed to be beaten. Let's just be really clear about that. Discipline is important. If you grow up without it, you end up a complete moron. And these people did. So there you go. This Tennessee woman, we can read a little further on this. The reporting is coming from, let me see who actually covered it. ABC did that as well. Let's give her name here because it's worth noting. Her name is Bevelyn Beatty Williams. She's 33 years old, and she was sentenced in a Manhattan federal court to 3 years and 5 months behind bars by a female judge because of a June protest at a Planned Parenthood. She apparently bumped a door shut, and it hurt somebody's hand. And she claimed, which was on camera, if I wasn't saved, referring to her Christian faith, I would have punched that woman in the face. The judge said you cannot commit crimes, even in the name of a religious cause. Really? Because it's pretty clear to me that that's a religious cause when you're out there supporting Hamas. The religion is leftism. Your God is government. You believe in authoritarian power by all means. But that's a religion as far as I can tell. It's a crappy religion. It's useless, and it leaves people unhappy and miserable. But it's real, and it's seen out there every single day. And that's how you end up with a diverse protest and not a violent mob, which is what it really was. By the way, they also were on the floor of the Capitol. They came in and actually marched into the Capitol. They were legally there, as noted by all these different left-wing outlets. It's very incredible to see this stuff happen. So that's why I've got a hard time with FBI Director Wray going up there and being talked about the investigation of one guy who's dead, which is important. It is like not without some value. But let's cover down on that since I know some people wanted to hear the hot takes about what Chris Wray did. I did watch almost all of it. It was nauseatingly long. So here are my takes away. Wray talked about a couple things. Number one, he gave some pretty good information about the shooters. The shooter fired 8 rounds, 8 pieces of brass were picked up, that the guy, Thomas Crooks, had minimal contacts. There's this stupid, and like even like Laura Loomer picked it up and it was like, oh my God, tmcrooks@fbi.gov was an email address that was available online according to the Wayback Machine from 4 years ago. Can we be real about that? You're telling me that the FBI had a 16-year-old that was working and had an FBI email address? Dude, come on now, people. The youngest I've ever seen inside the FBI is probably like a 19-year-old on a college internship. There's no way they had a 16-year-old, especially like a loser with no particular background. You think that guy got a top secret clearance? Come on now. So there's some dumb stuff out there. But they said he had minimal contacts, that he fit the profile of a loner, that everything they see shows that. This idea, by the way, of like these encrypted apps, which I noticed the FBI trotting him out and everyone was like, aha, he's got encrypted apps. What does that mean? Dude, I've got encrypted apps and probably so do you. Do you have Google Meet? It's the back and forth program for video chatting using Google. That's an encrypted app. It encrypts when you do video. I use it with my father. Do you have Signal? Do you have Wicker? Do you have Telegram? Those are all encrypted apps. Do you have Proton Mail? Those are encrypted apps. So spare me the outrage that he had encrypted apps and he was 20 years old. Like, what else would he have? You're a fool if you don't have encrypted apps for whatever that's worth. If you have non-encrypted chats, iMessage is encrypted, folks. So that word was used very deliberately. I think it was a messaging campaign on behalf of the FBI. I'll tell you why in just a second. They also dropped out new information that we hadn't heard before. He actually contradicted himself. First, Wray said he bought a ladder and then, but he didn't use it to climb up on the roof. As far as they could tell, the ladder wasn't on scene. They didn't find it in his car. So it's unlikely that he used it to get up because obviously he went up on the roof and then he was dead. And so he couldn't have retrieved the ladder. So that was kind of the story. And then Tom Massey actually drilled into it further and was asking more about the ladder. He's like, we saw pictures of a ladder. Did he climb up on that? And then Wray, I don't know if he got new information from the staff. We couldn't see because they recessed. But he comes back and he was like, actually, we're going to share this with you right now. He actually scaled, we think, the AGR building using mechanical equipment and vertical pipes. That's a direct quote. Mechanical equipment and vertical pipes. Climbed onto the roof using that. So he didn't need a ladder at all. Who the hell knows why he bought a 5-foot ladder at Home Depot that morning? People do weird stuff. What he did talk about in a big detail was how much the drone footage was interesting, that they were going to go try to do a drone exploitation, find out what he was doing. I also see that as a way that the FBI might try to get themselves into regulating drones. That's all bad. Listen, government has a single goal, grow. Chris Wray has a single goal, to grow his department, to grow his agency, to grow the budget and the number of personnel and the responsibilities that he has. He mentioned it. They're $500 million under budget. They didn't have they needed $500 more million than they got for 2024 because Wray has new dreams. And he thinks that the proposal for 2025 is even less and he needs more money. They need more money. The Democrats want to give him more money. That just tells me they want to fund this secret police organization that has intel capabilities. And the whole point of encryption, Kyle Seraphin's perspective, but it rings true. Going back to at least 2014, Jim Comey talked about it. Chris Wray has never let the ball drop. The idea that the quote unquote going dark initiative is an interest of the FBI. They want a skeleton key to get into all encrypted apps and all encrypted things. They think that companies should fundamentally break their encryption and allow law enforcement into it simply because the possibility exists that this tool could be misused. It could hide child pornographers. It could hide potential terrorists. Yeah, but it doesn't use that for 99% of the people that use it. Most of the people who use these technologies do not break the law. This is the same problem as saying every gun must be registered because some of them are used in crimes. I'll have Steven Stambolia on again, but if you guys want to go back and review our episode with the machine gun lawyer, it presupposes that all guns will be used in crimes. This is how government sees it. There is a problem. We have a hammer. We will treat every problem like a nail and smash it. And so Chris Wray talking about encrypted apps gave me that chill down the spine moment where it's like they're going to try to angle this thing. There's a gun control angle for it, trying to get people, eliminated from their ownership of semi-automatic weapons, which Chris Wray doesn't seem to have a good grasp on. He was not very good in his questions with Eric Swalwell. And the second piece of it is, and maybe the more important piece, is eliminating privacy, the ability to communicate without the government having a right to know what you say. When the government has a right to be able to break into your comms, we have a serious problem, more than we currently do. And they've been pushing this for a very long time. And my comment about Wray not knowing much about guns comes from two things. Number one, he had a difficult time trying to definitively state the difference between a bolt action and a semi-automatic. So did Eric Swalwell, by the way, who probably doesn't know much about guns either. The second thing is he mentioned that the shooter's weapon had a collapsible stock, and that may have made it easier to conceal. Anybody who knows anything about the AR platform knows that they all have collapsible stocks except the sort of like the old A2 style, which is a fixed stock, and nobody's really running around with those. Almost every production gun coming out now has a 5-position or 3-position collapsible stock, whether it's commercial or mil-spec. And what I suspect he meant is that it had something like a Law Tactical folding adapter, which means you can actually fold the stock. SIG is putting those on a lot of guns as well. Their MP, or what is it, the MCX and the MPX platforms have the ability to fold the stock and the buffer tube, because they don't actually have a buffer tube, it's internal. Things like that are probably what he meant. Even so, the thing had a 16-inch barrel. We could see it on the roof. I've seen the footage of it. You guys have too. No way skinny kid without a heavy jacket is hiding that thing. You can't even hide that in a backpack. And take that from someone who used to transport AR-15s on commercial aircrafts in backpacks between my legs. It takes some work to do it. By the way, if you want to transport something like that, you just take the upper and the lower off and you set them next to each other in a smaller bag. That's how you make it smaller. So whatever. All this stuff was nonsensical. Couple other little points. Wray used a term there that I've seen only in FBI documents, and you guys might be interested to know in light of this Tennessee decision and the light of weaponized government: abortion-related violent extremism. Now, he claimed that there are now more investigations against leftists who attack the pro-life facilities. He didn't use the word leftist. Than there are into people that are violators of the FACE Act that are on the political right. The proof is in the pudding, bro. We know better. The numbers do not line up for that. I'm fairly confident he lied straightforward on that. He also asserted that the FBI is objective and independent, that they don't have editorial or selection bias. That's obviously false. He said that they are sometimes upset and frustrated with the results of their investigations as the result of seeking the truth. Why would that be? Because they come to it with biases, because they come to it with a selection, because they come to it trying to affirm what they believe. Let me add a couple little other things here that I thought were weird. Let's see. Complained about budget. He also claimed the FBI arrests 150 criminals per day, and if you take money away from them, they won't be able to do that. Most of those arrests, if you guys follow Steve Friend on Twitter or on True Social, you'll find out that those are mostly done by state and local law enforcement, and the FBI claims credit for it. So let's give credit where it's due. The FBI, if it ceased to exist, would not stop 150 criminals from coming off the streets a day. It might stop like 10 or 15 tops. A number of these folks wanted to add more money. They wanted to talk about election violence, and it was always about protecting poll workers, and it had nothing to do with the fact that we're going to see a disruption like those idiots from the Hamas thing. A couple of weird things. I heard someone say that Sheila Jackson Lee was the voice of reason in Congress, and that may be the truth, but if it is, God help us all. There were a couple of very nice tributes to her, which is sort of comical, including in Chris Wray's opening statement, which is why the opening of our show is always funnier. And if you guys don't listen to us on Rumble, if you don't watch the show, it starts off with Sheila Jackson Lee querying Chris Wray about agents Kyle Seraphin. I'll take that to mean me, of which he says, I'm familiar with the name. Always kind of fun. Anyhow, just always remember the goal of government is to grow. Nobody gets promoted and nobody feels better because they shrunk their government agency. That is not a thing. That is not how these things work. See if I got anything else here that I want to play for you. I've got a good palate cleanser, and it's going to help you guys remember what is going on right now on that political left. Definitely don't call her the border czar unless you engage in that last little bit of thing, that critical thinking. So we'll talk to that. Let's touch that. Let's do a 5-star review, and then we'll kind of wrap this sucker up. Before we roll and shut this down, I want to say thanks to my friends at Catholic Vote. I'm going to be taping another episode. We did a Between the Lines, which is coming out very shortly, and we're working on a new project that you guys are going to be able to see over there as well. Additional commentary, similar stuff, more breaking news that happens later on in the day. So we'll be probably doing 2 podcasts on some days of the week. CatholicVote.org is if you guys want to support them. CatholicVote.org/give if you want to financially do so. They are in the fight for faith, family, and freedom. They actually care about things like truth with a capital T, things that are accurate. They actually care about things like kids and family. President of that organization, Brian Birch, who's a really good guy, has 9 children. He's the opposite of Kamala Harris. He's a male that is educated, that doesn't say cringy stuff, and he has a bunch of kids. He's got tons of skin in the game. Anyway, CatholicVote.org, great folks, great people. Get the loop as well if you guys go there. Just go to their main webpage and get it set up. So let's do this 5-star review. I will read quite a long one today. This is coming from Gus Steed. The reason I'm reading it is because you took the time to write it, and I appreciate it. It says, love your show, 5 stars. Your show is the best part of my day. I love that you had your dad on the other day. You absolutely need to do that more often. We got a lot of calls from more of my dad, so we'll bring him on again. Bring some age and wisdom in here. Also, thank you for saying on Friday that the first thing that happened when coming upon an emergency situation is panic. I found my mother lying near death in the house when I grew up in last November. I thought she was dead. There was a small movement that made me realize she was still alive, and I freaked out and I panicked and then took the steps I learned in BLS. I felt terrible that I didn't handle it like a pro, and I'm relieved to learn that I'm not the only one. I wish you were still in New Mexico. Yeah, the fact of the matter is, folks, and that's a really good point, panic is universal. There's a lot of things that are universal in our human experience, and that's one of them. So when it happens, just do it up front. You did the right thing. Good for you, Gus. I'm glad you were able to try to do some life-saving methods. Whether it was effective or not, let us know. But that is the move. Panic and then get to work. You can only do that if you have our newest sponsor to the show. You guys are going to really like this. We appreciate our friend Lou from setting this up. This is a new sponsorship, a pharmaceutical product. You guys are going to probably want to go out there and ask your doctor about this.
I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
So we're really appreciative of the folks over at A Brain. If you guys want to go ahead and support them, you can go to tryabrain.com. I have no idea if that's a real website, but come on. Is that not what it's all about? Sorry about the diarrhea that we all have to experience because we're using our brain. That's maybe the worst part of that ad. It's probably the most accurate too. All right, last little thought. If you guys want to get the t-shirts, like I don't know why Burt Macklin was asking about the t-shirt that I'm wearing today, but if you guys want to go to the merch store, you can always support my buddy Garrett O'Boyle at the-suspendables.com. It's in the show description for every one of these places, whether you're listening on audio or whether you're watching us on Rumble or YouTube or everything else. The only people that don't see it are the folks on X, so we throw it on the screen for you. Promo code Kyle will save you 10% on any of the t-shirts or the hats or whatever Garrett is slinging over there, along with his wife Heidi, who is the boss. That's how it works. The men in our families are working for slave labor when they're not allowed to earn an income by the FBI. All right, try a brain. Best luck to you guys. This is going to be an interesting time. Definitely don't call Kamala a border czar. God forbid you use your brain. We'll see you again tomorrow for a Friendly Friday. Hopefully Steve is going to be available, and we'll see you then. Be safe. Try to engage that head as you look at the facts. God forbid you just get switched out for that current thing. Don't be those leftists. We can do better. All right. God bless. See you in the morning tomorrow, y'all.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.